the former premier that I'm going to introduce in a moment, I think the kinds of words that come about are visionary, policy, long-term thinking, leadership, and I think those are characteristics that he's taken not only to the premiership and having been a mayor of Vancouver, but also to his most recent assignment where he represented Canada in the UK. And so without further ado, I'm thrilled to be introducing to you the Honourable Gordon Campbell as our morning speaker. Gordon? You should be thinking about using Pigeonhole, because after Gordon gives his address, we're going to be moving to Pigeonhole for the Q&A, and gives you lots of opportunity to think about the questions that you might ask. Gordon?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you all for coming. Can you hear me? Do I have to have this on to hear me? Like that? Okay. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here on the traditional territories of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Musqueam, the Coast Salish First Nations. It's been a long time since I've actually been able to say that, or that I've actually spoken in the province of British Columbia, so it's good to be here with you now and just to share some of my my thoughts about where we are and where you can be going. Some of you have said to me as I've came up through the escalators and through the lobby, you know, what have you been doing for the last little while? And I say that I was a High Commissioner. And how many of you know what a High Commissioner is or does? That's how most people are, right? So I'll just give you a quick rundown. I was at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London, and I said I was Canada's High Commissioner. And they said, what is a High Commissioner? I said, well, a High Commissioner is like an ambassador. And the Foreign and Commonwealth Office protocol officer said, oh, no. High Commissioners are much more important than ambassadors. Now, that's, of course, what I wanted to hear. He says, you know, when you're an ambassador, you come to London to represent your country, you're picked up at your official residence in a beautiful carriage, and you're drawn to Buckingham Palace by 2 horses. And I'm imagining that, and I thought that would be pretty cool. When you're High Commissioner, you're picked up in a beautiful carriage, and you're drawn to Buckingham Palace by 4 horses. 4. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, that would be even better. 4 horses, you got a morning coat on, these horses. And then the person from the Commonwealth Office said, oh, you're a Realm High Commissioner. Now, a Realm High Commissioner is someone, the Queen of England happens to be the Queen of Canada as well. So I'm not presenting my credentials when I go, because she's already asked me to go and represent herself, Queen Elizabeth of Canada, to herself, Queen Elizabeth of the United Kingdom. And she's very bright. She knows she's the same person. So I got no carriage and no horses. So I was pretty disappointed. I went back this afternoon and said, yes, but you're a new High Commissioner. We're going to get you a new car. I said, isn't that great? What sort of car did the last High Commissioner have? He said, well, the last High Commissioner had a BMW 7. I thought, well, that would be pretty nice. I walked home one day, and there in front of the official residence is a beautiful, rich, burgundy Maserati. And I went into the staff and I said, you guys, you bought me a Maserati? They said, no, that's the Italian ambassadors next door. You're getting a Ford. So you have the privilege of hearing Canada's only High Commissioner in history to be driven to Buckingham Palace for his audience with Her Majesty in a Ford Mondeo station wagon. Pretty special thing. But the High Commissioner is just like an ambassador. You're responsible for immigration, for border policy, for the Canada Defence Liaison Services, for traditional diplomacy, for trade. We're very active in the CETA negotiations, Comprehensive Economic Trade negotiations with the European Union. Traditional diplomacy that takes place, public diplomacy, etc. There's about 250 people in London that represent Canada and try to meet Canada's needs there. And I honestly think I was there during probably London's best 5 years of the last 25 and the best 5 years of the next 25. They're going to have significant challenges in front of them, I think, as they go through the discussion about leaving the European Union. And I think it's an important object lesson for all of us to think about this, because the world has changed dramatically. In the 5 years, or the last 10 years, it's really been significant changes that have shaken the world. And it's shaken us culturally, it's shaken us economically, it's shaken us socially. You can see these changes taking place across Europe. you can see these changes taking place in the rest of the world as well. And it's a time of challenge, but it's a time of opportunity. And I think it's an important part of the world that we live in to recognize that these changes that are taking place are going to continue to take place. And for us to be able to make the kind of progress that we want to make and that we'd like to make for the generation that follows, is we're going to have to be very clear about what it is that's important to us. What are the principles that we're going to build our future upon? And how do we do that to maximize the opportunities and benefits for all of us? So I can tell you, being in London and being in the United Kingdom for me was an eye-opener. I'd spent most of my time in British Columbia. I'd been mayor of Vancouver, I'd leader of the opposition and premier of the province. And it was really interesting for me to see how people see this part of the world and see Canada even. Because I think it's often different than how Canada sees itself, or certainly how British Columbia sees itself. So when I went, they'd say to me, what did you used to do? I'd say, well, I was mayor of Vancouver, and they'd kind of nod. They'd know that. Vancouver's, yeah, it's somewhere over there. Believe me, Vancouver's not the top of their list of cities that they know, but it's somewhere. It's a very nice place to live. I've heard it's beautiful. I'd say, yeah, it's beautiful. So they kind of knew Vancouver. In Canada, they kind of know Vancouver. They know Calgary as an energy center. They know Toronto as a financial center, and they know Montreal. Those are the four cities which really, they don't need any help in describing where they are. Now then I would say, and I was the premier of British Columbia, and they get this sort of squinty look on their face. You know that squinty look when someone says, they know they're supposed to think it's a good thing, but they're not quite sure why? And they think, British Columbia, where have I heard that name before? Is that next to that Dutch Guiana on the north coast of South America, or where exactly is that place? Right? So I'd have to describe for them where it was, and as soon as I did, they'd get it. They'd get that it was in Canada, it was the westernmost province in Canada. And then I would usually say, just to show off a little, I'd say, it's about the size of England, France, and Germany combined. And then their eyes get big. Because one of the things that we take for granted is everyone knows us. Not that many people know all of us. You know, in the United Kingdom, it's about 2%. Just imagine this as a Canadian. The United Kingdom's geographic base is about 2% the size of Canada's. One time zone. They don't have, do you guys know how many time zones there are in Canada? Somebody shout it out. 6. There's 6 time zones across Canada. And one of the things that we forget how big we are, how massive we are. We're a huge country that has a role to play, and a special role to play. And one of the things that I'd say is we are particularly well positioned to play that role in the world, globally, because we have all of the advantages we need to set an example. We don't have to be the most powerful nation in the world. We don't have to be this or that. We can just be an exemplary nation. And I think your industry and the efforts you've made create for us a springboard that allows Canada to take a new role in the world from the one that we've had, say, 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And it's something that should, I think, create excitement and opportunities for people across the country. And it's a time that's going to require a certain amount of courage. Definitely it's going to require leadership. And it's going to require a commitment to action beyond announcements. Announcements without action aren't worth very much. And we're very good at the announcement part. We have to get better at the action part. And I want to read you this quote. It's quite an old quote. Maybe some of you will know where it's from, but this is the quote. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, but we must rise to the occasion. As our case is new, we must think anew. We must act anew. And then we will save our country. We tend to think we're the first time that the globe has gone through these sort of enormous changes both in our demography, in our sociology, in our economy, in how things work, how we fit together. But it's happened before. That was Abraham Lincoln in 1862. And I just want you to think of those words because I think they're a good springboard for us to think about what we're facing today in the world. The dogmas of the quiet past. It is not 1950 anymore. It's not 1980 anymore. I just met with Stephen today at a breakfast earlier on, and Stephen says, oh yeah, I was at a breakfast with you in the 90s when you were mayor. In the 90s, when I was mayor, was 25 years ago. That's it feels like a short time for me, but it's 25 years. right? The dogmas of the quiet past, the stability of the past, the world that we all grew up understanding has changed. And the evidence is it's going to continue to change, and the rapidity of the change is going to constantly challenge us. How many people woke up today and said, you know, I'd just like to have a lot more changes in my life? Most people wake up and say, if I could have one day where nothing really changes dramatically, right? Just one day. Just give me a little bit of a break, right? But it's not going to give us, it's going to be relentless change that we confront. So those dogmas that we're used to don't work anymore. And here's one of the challenges we face. People are a lot more comfortable with old problems than they are with new solutions. Old problems are sort of comfortable. We can yell at one another about them. We can tell you you've been wrong before, and I can say, yes, I've been right before, or vice versa. And you just, but let's just do a little more of what we've always done. We have to think differently. We have to think anew. We have to act anew. We have to disenthrall ourselves. That means take these ideas that we think are just locked in and unlock them. And that's one of the things that the clean energy sector of the economy can do for us. You guys are innovators. How many times have you heard people stand up and say, it's time for innovation? We're going to be the innovation government. We're going to be the innovation this, the innovation that. You are it. You're the innovators. You're the ones that come with new ideas and new ways of responding to the challenges we face. And what we need to do is create an environment where you can step through those doors of opportunity and show people, set the example for people about what can take place, about how we can solve their problems with new solutions that connect with them and connect with their values. So there's no question in my mind that in today's world, we need new ideas. And generally speaking, this is not a political comment, but generally speaking, we should remember this. Governments are far more comfortable with the status quo and old responses than they are to new solutions. And it takes real drive to create new opportunities and new policy. In fact, I did a couple of new policies when I was Premier, and you had to stay focused on them. You had to keep driving them forward, or it's easy to pull them back. I'll give you one example, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with this. We wanted to try public-private partnerships in British Columbia. And so we initiated those, and we said to the public service, if you have a public-private partnership idea, bring it forward to us and let us know that we can do it. Not surprisingly, there wasn't not one proposal that came forward from the staff that called for a public-private partnership. Nope, couldn't do it. That doesn't work. Never done it that way before. That won't work. So we changed our approach. We said everything is going to be a public-private partnership. And finally, we got coming through the door opportunities for public-private partnerships, probably 35 or 40 while I was there as Premier. Not one of them went over budget. Many of them were delivered early, and they were delivered in the way that we needed, quality projects. My favorite one is the Kicking Horse Canyon, public-private partnership. You go through the process, the private proposal is awarded, and the proponent comes and says, we'd like to try to build this a different way. And we said, well, you can try. But remember that you're taking the risk, the government's not taking the risk. You get the benefit if you're successful, and if you're not, we're getting all the investment you've got. They went and they tried. They delivered the project 22 months early on budget. That's how you tap in to the power of the private sector and of the individuals to actually deliver public goods in a way that are positive to the future of the province. And independent power has been a way of doing that for British Columbia. Clean energy is something that is a special platform which has created about $6 billion of investment already, billions more to come, thousands of construction jobs which people are comfortable with, and it's something that we should recognize the world is hungry for. The traditional sources of power are there, and they will take them if there are no alternatives. But if you can give them the alternative and find a way of opening up the opportunities beyond our borders in British Columbia, beyond our borders in Canada, and give the world some of the solutions that we've discovered here in British Columbia and put to work in British Columbia and have shown how they work in British Columbia, that's a very positive contribution that we can make to the global economy and to the global initiative to reduce emissions and to give the next generation a cleaner, healthier world to live in. And I think it's something that you should all take some pride in. That you have been at the front of that. You have been driving that forward, and it is needed. With the new comprehensive economic trade agreement with the European Union, we will have an opportunity to trade in a lot of our technologies, a lot of our engineering products, a lot of our processed products into Europe if we decide to, and they need Canada's energy. I think it's important too that we think of energy as something a little in a different way than we have in the past. Because when I was sitting in London, sitting on the board of the Commonwealth, for example, 53 nations around the world, nations from the size of India, of over 1 billion people, to the size of Vanuatu with, I think it's 38,000. All of them need energy, and they would prefer clean energy alternatives. And sometimes the smaller scale clean energy alternatives that we can develop are exportable. The way that Canada does business is exportable, and it's a value-added product to the rest of the world. Canadians go and they help people solve problems. We don't tell people what to do. We show them the various options they can follow, and then we give them the opportunities to do it. Our First Nations, who have been so actively involved in clean energy, are great examples of how you can build capacity with clean energy responses to the need for energy that builds quality of life in communities, that builds economic capacity in communities, and builds a better environmental response across the community. Those are things that we have, that we've learned, that we can give, that we can contribute to the rest of the world that I think are significant and are valuable. And I think it's time we told the story. It's time we raised our heads and said, this is what we're doing in Canada. We have a vast array of energy options in Canada. We can provide those energy options to the east, across to Europe that needs them, and that will help stabilize the dependency that's taking place in in Russia. We can provide it to the west, to Korea, to China, to Japan, and further west to India, and that helps to stabilize the global geopolitical situation because Russia doesn't have an energy hammer they can hold over other economies. All of those things are positive contributions that Canada can make to our allies, to our friends, and to those who share the values that we've got. The government has come forward and say they want to move forward with a far-sighted, generational environmental policy that was based on their decisions coming out of the Paris conference, and now it's time for them to take the actions to move us there. And you are part of that. So I would say to you today that the opportunities that you face in the clean energy industry are significant. That does not mean the problems and the challenges aren't significant. And I know there's been a lot of discussion here about the issue with regard to Site C, the Site C dam. I should tell you, just full disclosure, I announced Site C. I was for Site C and I remain for Site C. I think Site C creates a storage capacity for us that's important, but I don't think Site C should be done in a way that excludes the development of clean energy and independent energy production. You know, remember, $6 billion that came into from your energy sector is $6 billion the taxpayer didn't have to pay. It's a benefit to the taxpayer. And if we think beyond our borders, if we think outside of British Columbia, we can make true contributions to Alberta, to Saskatchewan, to Manitoba, to Ontario, which has a real energy challenge. If we can think in terms of reaching out and helping one another accomplish our goals both to the east and to the south, there is an enormous marketplace that's there which we can use as a foundation to build the international opportunities that exist for British Columbia's enterprises. And I just like you to think about this, because we tend to enthrall ourselves as opposed to disenthrall ourselves. How many people here think British Columbia's mining industry would be really successful if we said this? The only product that we're going to mine is going to stay in British Columbia. It must be used in British Columbia. We cannot move it outside of British Columbia. How many people think our forest industry would be incredibly successful if we said every stick of fiber that we take out of our forests has to be used in British Columbia? We think beyond that. That's why we're the largest trader of softwood, the second largest trader of softwood in the world. It's why we're recognized around the world for our mineral products. It's why we can be recognized around the world for what we do with our clean energy and our energy inventory in not just British Columbia, but in Canada. There is opportunity there, but it will be new. It will be challenging, and it will ask each of you to stand for what you believe in and show a way forward that will work for others. I want other jurisdictions to take advantage of British Columbia's clean energy because it creates economic opportunity, it creates community opportunity, it creates social opportunities, and it creates environmental benefits. Pretty good basket of goods. But we should be speaking for that. We should be challenging ourselves to actually take that forward and challenging those who represent us to bring it forward with us. Remember, thousands of jobs have been created in the construction industry by all of the enterprises that have been involved in clean energy in British Columbia. Construction, pretty traditional. Construction tends to be in the communities that it's done in. All of those things are positive benefits. And those are things that I think you can take forward as you look to the future. And I think if we think of the future and think of ourselves as working with, as opposed to against, if we think of ourselves and building the momentum behind what we can do, it's incredible what opportunities we can create for ourselves, both in terms of British Columbia, but also in terms of Canada. And the globe, I think, is waiting for Canada to play an active, constructive, and positive leadership role. And you're all part of that. And I know there's lots of mornings you wake up and you say to yourselves, I wish this was easier. I don't think it's going to get easier. But I do think it's going to be rewarding. And I think it's going to be an opportunity for you to say, we set an example. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. There is no question about that. Our case is new. Your case is new. And you do need to think in a different way. And we do need to act in a different way. And if we do disenthrall ourselves, we will save our province, our country, and the future of the planet, I think, in so many ways. I'm going to close with this. It's another quote that I've always used, because I believe it's true. And I should say this, it's particularly true in Canada. When you leave Canada and spend time away, you realize how fortunate we are to have been born in Canada, to be living in Canada with all the opportunities that exist there. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Think of what you can do. Be bold. Reach for it. And you will be surprised at the magic you create. You've already created it. You can do more. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Now it's over to you guys for this